Well, good morning and welcome to your Financial Empower Hour. This is Jason Cryderman with Great Lakes Investment Advisors. Happy Sunday to our listeners. Happy Sunday to my co-host, Mr. Tony Shore, over in the great state of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tony, it was when we're recording this show on Monday morning. I know it's when my listeners are you're actually listeners and viewers are hearing or seeing the show on a Sunday, a week later. But
Right.
this is a really important morning for Tony, myself, and my son Carson. So if anybody listened to our show last week, for those listeners, for those viewers that saw the show last week, you know the first few minutes of the segment, we talk about family and what we do with the kids over the weekend, and Tony and his family, and we love to talk about sports. And Tony and I and Carson and Tony, we actually put a little wager out last week on our show, a friendly little wager. And because Tony being out of Minneapolis, Minnesota area, he is a lifelong diehard Vikings fan.
Yep.
And we won't hold that against you. We've told you that before, Tony. It's okay. We'll give you a hug if you need one, buddy. It's okay. And obviously, Carson and I are lifelong diehard Lions fans.
Sure.
And so, there's always some good chatter, and especially when I have Carson on the show. Those of you that have heard Carson on the show and you heard Tony and him go back and forth about whether it's college football or NFL or baseball, Carson loves it. And so last week, Tony and I were talking quite a bit about the upcoming game, which was this past Sunday, was actually the game, and what the outcome would be and what it might not be. Tony, do you remember? I got busy yesterday, man. I didn't catch the whole game. Can you bring us up to speed, my listeners and my viewers? Can you let us know, Tony? How'd that game end up yesterday? How did the Lions and the Vikings fare?
Oh, you had to bring this up. Holy cow! Yeah, yesterday was. For me it was. I have to play the sad trombone today.
Perfect.
That I had to have that sound effect. The Vikings lost to the Lions by 2 points.
What a game! What a game!
It was a game, though. Yeah, it was a good game.
And for those listeners and viewers that saw the game, what an awesome, great game. When we first. We actually spent some of the weekend over at my dad's over in Canadian Lakes. We're celebrating his 80th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And there was a lot of family in town from Florida and from Saginaw and from the Traverse City area. And so we were over to my dad's all day Saturday. We had an awesome dinner over there with them and just spent some awesome family time, which was really cool for my dad's 80th birthday. And so Sunday we were coming home, and by the time we got home, we unpacked the truck, we sat down to watch the game. It literally had just started, and it was already 10-0. And I all I could think of was, and Carson looked at me and said, "Dad, we're gonna owe Tony $5." I'm like, I know, Carson, you're gonna have to go do some chores, and
yeah.
And then, boy, the next thing you know, the Lions scored 21 unanswered points, and here we are. And then Carson looks at me and said, "Dad, hope Tony's doing his chores. He's going to owe me $5."
Right.
And boy, but back and forth. And then to come down to the last few seconds of the game for the Lions to kick that field goal.
Yeah.
And then the Vikings had a chance, and then there was a flag, and then an extra play, and just all the craziness. And boy, the Lions, they ended up on top. So it was a great game overall, though. Really good game.
I'm going to have to get that little crowbar I have out and pry open my wallet, blow out the dust, and get Carson's money out of there. Yeah.
Watch out for the butterflies.
This is a lesson to you kids out there. No wagering.
It's really not worth it, is it, Tony? I mean, it's
no.
Good team,
This is why I don't gamble. But I still love my Vikings, and I do think that Detroit could go all the way this year. I think personally, right now, they are the best team in the league. And that includes I think the three best teams are the Lions, the Vikings, and the Chiefs. And I think the Vikings are starting to struggle a little bit. I hope we can bring it back. We have good coaching, so hopefully we'll come back. But I think the Chiefs' reign might be over. I think the Central or the North division is we've got a great division this year.
We do, yeah. I mean, I appreciate listeners and viewers. I hope you heard the prediction by our own Tony Shore. He just told us mark it down. He said, and actually just before coming on the air, he said, I think your Lions are going to go to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're going to win it, but they're going to be there. And so I take that as a hell of a prediction. So thank you, Tony, for that. And let's hope the Lions can keep riding. I think you're right. Minneapolis is an awesome team. You guys are strong. You're awesome. Special teams, defense, offensive line, coaching. So you're by no means are you out of anything.
Oh yeah. No,
and then you mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs, and you and I talked about the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit as well. I'm not drinking that. I'm not drinking the Chief Kool-Aid.
No, me either.
Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes is good. The team is good, but I don't know. And
he doesn't look as good as he has, and he's not having a great year as far as numbers.
No, I don't think he's in his prime anymore.
The refs are trying to help him. They're propping him up a little bit. A lot of people are questionable calls.
A lot of people are saying, "Wow, he's just getting." The calls that they're getting against them are weak, and they're getting so many calls for them, and it's like, well, I don't know. I guess some of that could be going on, but I don't think he's as good as he has been in the past. Partially, the team's not gelling and as good. So hopefully we can watch them lose a game or two, and the Lions and the Vikings keep moving forward. And at some point in time, it can only be one of us in the Super Bowl, and may the best team get there, and
may the best team win, right? Could be the Vikings, could be the Lions. As long as it's not the Bears or the Packers, I'll be happy.
We'll both be very happy. We'll both be very happy. And I know half the state of Michigan will be pretty darn happy because the Lower Peninsula is primarily Lions fans, but the Upper Peninsula, I'll bet half the population of the Upper Peninsula, or maybe more, are Packers fans because they're actually a lot closer to Green Bay, and they can be over to a Green Bay game in maybe 2 to 3 hours. But if they want to come down for a Lions game, it might be a 5 to 8 hour drive. And so it's amazing the amount of Michiganders up in the UP that are actually Packers fans.
Yep. I know they are. That's not good. That's not good. That's why we avoid the UP. No, I'm kidding.
We don't. We love
it's
the UP.
Beautiful up there. It's beautiful up there. I'm teasing. I'm just kidding. I love the UP. I just don't like the Packers. So we've got a great show lined up today, Jason. It's going to be a good one. But first, what have you besides? Okay, so was it your dad's 80th birthday?
My dad's 80th. Yep, actually the 22nd. So it's actually it's tomorrow as you and I record, but as our listeners and viewers hear the show, it was this past Tuesday, the 22nd. Dad turned 80.
Awesome.
And it was great. We did some awesome family time. I actually took my dad and Carson down to the Detroit Red Wings game on Thursday night.
Fun.
Yeah, they played the New York Rangers. What an awesome game. We got great seats right on the glass.
Oh, wow. That's really nice.
It was great. Unfortunately, Detroit's a little young, I think. New York definitely has more skill and ability. I think just an overall deeper bench and deeper team. They took it to us pretty good. The overall score was 5-2. They literally dominated, but it was still awesome experience to have myself and my dad and Carson to take him down there for his 80th birthday. What an awesome time.
Yeah.
And then as I already mentioned, we went over to him and Carol's house over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Had a lot of family in town, from out of state, and just really celebrated Dad and kicked back, relaxed, enjoyed the beautiful weather over here, and beautiful time for my dad's 80th. How was your weekend?
Well, it was good, but I want to mention to our listeners out there, we're constantly giving away copies of your book, Empower Your Retirement, and your dad co-wrote that with you. You and your dad wrote that book together. I think that's fantastic. Empower Your Retirement. And I want our listeners to stay tuned because in a minute here, we're going to be giving away a few copies of that book. And then we're going to jump into our topic today, which we have a scary Halloween-themed topic for you listeners out there today. It's going to be a scary one. But my week went great. I did a lot. I got a lot done here this last weekend around the house. And then on Sunday, we actually watched the game with my dad down. We drove 3.5 hours to where my parents are at in the assisted living facility and watched the game there with them. And we brought our dog, Enzo. He's pretty big.
And is he allowed in to see Dad?
he is allowed in, and we went to the nursing home side, where my mom is at, the full-time care side, and most of the people there are in wheelchairs. And he walks around and says hi to
very cool.
everybody and pokes his head in everybody's room, and they love it. They let
I
us
bet
bring
they
him
do.
in because he's a real gentle dog, and he's a beautiful dog. He's a mix. It's a Weimaraner, Border Collie, Lab.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and so he's a rescue. He's a good-looking dog, and we brought him through there, and we love bringing him down because he loves it.
I bet he loves that too. Yeah, I
He
bet he
does
loves
love it. He loves going around and smelling everything and everybody and
Yeah,
getting to
checking
know him, and
everybody out.
he'll put his head up so they can pet it, and
Very cool.
yeah, so that was fun seeing them and watching the game down there. And then other than that, just busy. The fall's a busy time, but I know for financial advisors, this is a really busy time because people are, okay, the summer's done. I spent my money there. Got to get my ducks in a row financially before the end of the year, before all the Christmas spending, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's an awesome show. I'm glad you mentioned that. We kind of titled it the scary things in retirement, or scary mistakes, or what have you.
Yeah.
But it's coming out of an article from Investopedia, and Investopedia
Right.
is a great resource. And so we're going to talk about one of their articles. But yeah, because there's a lot of times, you're right, at this time of the year-end planning is when a lot of times people freak out and they get scared because they don't realize how much money maybe they spent over the summer, or how far behind they might be on that maybe it was a New Year's resolution of a goal of how much money they wanted to have saved by the end of the year, or how much income they wanted to have, or maybe how much debt they wanted to get out from under. And now here they're sitting
Right.
in October, it's Halloween. They're like, oh my gosh, Christmas season's upon us. And, are we going to have, is it going to be the Grinch or Santa Claus? What's Christmas going to be like this year? So yeah, I think it's a fitting topic, and especially right here around Halloween, scary time of year for the ghosts, ghouls, and goblins. But
Right.
overall, that's our job as advisors, is to help people get through these scary times. And so I think our listeners and viewers are going to really like our show today.
Excellent. All right. Well, before we jump into the topic, which is scary retirement mistakes that you can avoid, please give us a call. Get a copy of the book. It's Empower Your Retirement. And it's a great book that, Jason, you wrote with your father, who actually just turned 80. That's great. The number you can call, the next 10 people that request a copy, will send it out at no charge. That's 989-835-7203. Again, the number is 989-835-7203. You can also set up a no charge, no obligation consultation to get a financial plan in place, a retirement income plan in place. And you can go to GreatLakesInvestmentAdvisors.com. That's GreatLakesInvestmentAdvisors.com. Check that out as well. And again, the phone number, 989-835-7203. And we're going to be right back with more of your Financial Empower Hour right after this. All right. Welcome back to your Financial Empower Hour. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. I'm here with our host, Jason Cryderman. And Jason, today's show, it's going to be a little scary.
It's going to be a little scary, Tony.
Yeah, a little scary. We're talking about retirement mistakes to avoid, scary retirement mistakes. So where do you want to begin? What's the first mistake you want to talk about today?
Yeah, and I think that's important to point out. We say that it's a scary show, and we're going to talk about scary mistakes. And really, the purpose of this article, and the purpose of my job as a fiduciary advisor, the rest of my team, is to help people avoid these scary mistakes. And that's really what this article is titled, is The Worst Retirement Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. So yeah, there are some scary things that happen out there financially. And I say it a lot of times. One of the biggest, scary things, what I see, is when people don't have a written plan. And that's actually number 2 or number 3, I'm sorry, on the list. But I'll jump right to that one. Is when people don't have a formal written plan. That's scary. That is scary to me, because if you don't have a plan, how do you know the things you own are in your best interest? And how do you know why you own what you own, and how much, and when You shouldn't own how do you just know? I'm just not sure. When you don't have a formal written plan, you're kind of just flying by the seat of your pants. You're kind of just winging it. And for a lot of people I've met, Tony, that's worked out great. It really has. They've been very fortunate. But it's scary to me to think about if we go through another stock market correction, which I know, our listeners, our viewers know it's going to happen. It's natural. The market can't always go up. But we think about 2001, 2002 stock market correction, pretty severe. We think about 2008, 2009 stock market correction, pretty scary, pretty severe. That if you don't have a written plan that really, and I call it like the tagline of my book, plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. If you're not planning and preparing, that's scary. That is scary to me. And so I think it's important. I can't point out enough and stress that. And you've done a great job, Tony, reminding our listeners and our viewers to get a written plan, whether it's from myself, another member of my team, or another fiduciary advisor out there, or even if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you still need to have a written plan.
You do.
And the more you can be prepared, the more proactive you can be, the better off the results will be. And so to me, that's scary number one. Scary number one is not having a plan.
Yeah. And you need to also update your plan, right? Regularly. Do you do that with your clients?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a follow-up there is you can do all the awesome, you can put in a lot of time. You can have an awesome plan put together, but if you don't continually monitor, review, and update that plan, and this goes for your tax plan, your income plan, your management plan of your portfolio as far as risk and return goes, your fees, your estate plan with your legal documents. These are all individual plans that you should have pulled together in one big game plan. And it's kind of like we talk about, football games. Well, they have a special teams plan. They have a kickoff plan. They have a punt team plan. They have a offensive plan. They have a defense. There's all kinds of plans that come together, and some plans are working out great at certain points and other plans aren't. So again, it's important, Tony, as you said, you have to continually monitor, review, and update your plans. And that's scary as well when I sit down with families or investors and they say, oh yeah, I put together a tax plan or an estate plan, or I put together a management plan, and I haven't talked to my guy or my girl that put it together for me in a year. I think that's doesn't that scare you? Like, that's scary to me, because I guarantee you interest rates, inflation, taxes, the stock market, your personal situation, something has changed over the last year. And it scares me that advisors aren't meeting with their clients more often to help them monitor, review, and update their plans. And so I think that's another thing. Absolutely. If you have a plan, that's great. You just took one of those big financial retirement fears or risks or scary situations off the table. But if you're not reviewing, monitoring, and updating that plan, that's pretty scary as well, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And you need to make sure that you have a written plan in place. And I think that it's important to work with a trusted financial professional, not to, you mentioned do-it-yourselfers, but you could make costly mistakes doing that. I would highly recommend working with a financial professional like yourself. What's another thing that we need to be looking at when it comes to making sure we don't make mistakes? What's another mistake you've seen people make in retirement planning?
Yeah, a couple of them, I guess they kind of tie into each other. So the list out of this article in Investopedia, I'm gonna throw two or three of them all together, Tony. And one is not saving at the right time, not saving the right amount,
Sure.
or spending too much. Okay, not just so I think budgeting and expenses is a huge deal. A lot of people say, well, I can't save right now. And the old saying, and I think you brought up on the show 100 times, is when's the best time to plant a tree? 40 years ago, right? If you wanted the fruit and the leaves.
Right.
But here we are today. And really, no matter what age you are as a listener or a viewer of our show, whether you're in your 20s, your 40s, your 60s, now is the time to start saving. And I know there's a lot of things in our lives that we say, well, I got bills and I have college and I have a wedding and now I have a house and now I have children. And there's a lot of excuses out there that we can't let get in the way. The sooner we start saving and investing, and the sooner we start managing our expenses, allows us more money to save, the less scary things are going to be when times don't go so good, when maybe the market
Right.
does get a little rough and rocky, or maybe you lose a job, or maybe you quit your job, or maybe you are at retirement. You're like, oh, I'm scared I don't have enough. And maybe you're in retirement. You're like, I'm scared I'm going to run out of money someday. Well, it really goes back to, if we can control our expenses and our budget, and we can save a little bit more, those fears and those scary those things later, situations later in life, aren't going to be so scary. And this article does a great job of pointing that out. And again, it all comes back to having a plan. If you don't have a budget plan and you don't have an investment plan, I mean, it's just, you're missing out right there.
Yeah, I imagine when it comes to savings, part of the mistakes you see people not taking advantage of things like IRAs or Roth IRAs, right? Is that a big one? I mean, people don't take
Absolutely.
advantage of retirement accounts.
Yep. So let's before we even go to Roth IRAs or IRAs, and those are your personal individual retirement accounts.
Yep.
One of the scariest things that I've seen is that people aren't maximizing out their employer plans. That if your employer offers you a 401k, a 403b, a 457, that's an employee benefit. That's a benefit to be an employee with that company. They're soaking up a lot of the costs for you. They do a lot of the admin stuff. A lot of companies are still matching some of your contributions, and that's free money. So when I see people not contributing enough to get a match from their employer plan, that's scary. It really is scary, because you're leaving free money on the table. One of the scary things within a 401k plan is, unfortunately, there's not a lot of employers that provide you with advice. There's not a lot of them that give you asset management advice, allocation advice, risk advice, income advice. And that's scary, to know that there's literally billions and billions of dollars inside of 401k plans in the United States, and not very many advisors within those plans to help you. Again, that's a service, though, myself and my team, we do provide, that if you have a 401k or a 403b and you're still employed, or you're not employed with that company anymore, we can give you advice on how to manage that plan internally for your best interest, not just, well, gee, I picked 5 or 10 mutual funds and I let it ride, because that's kind of scary too.
Yeah. Oh, really scary. Yeah, for sure. And before we move on, let's take a moment to give away a few more copies of your book. We're going to give another 5 copies away right now. We're going to spread it out throughout the show. It's Empower Your Retirement. Plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. And a great book that you wrote, Jason, along with your dad. All our listeners have to do to get a copy is be one of the next 5 people to call and request a copy of the book. That number is 989-835-7203. Again, that number is 989-835-7203. And we have so many books we can give away each show. And so don't be afraid to call, even if you're listening to this on a podcast and you think, well, this has been out a couple of days, it's not live. Nope, pick up the phone, give us a call, request a copy of the book, and mention you heard about it on the show. And if we haven't filled up all the free slots for the book, we'll send you one, no charge. 989-835-7203. All right, today on your Financial Empower Hour, we're talking about scary retirement mistakes to avoid. And so far, Jason, you've covered a lot. You've talked about making sure that you actually have a financial plan. And then you talked about savings, not saving now. The best time is now, you mentioned. The best time to plant a tree is 20 or 40 years ago. The second best time is now. So save now, work on that spending plan, and then take advantage of these accounts. And you mentioned another mistake you see people make is not maxing out your company match. You have to contribute enough to your employer-sponsored plan to get the full match. You said, I think, Jason, it's like leaving free money on the table.
Absolutely. And, that's a big deal. And not a lot of employers, or I should say, not a lot of employers have pensions anymore, right? So that's where you used to retire and you just get a paycheck and it still comes from your employer. Well, not a lot of employers still have that pension. They got rid of the pension plan and they went to the investment plan of the 401k or the 403b, and they really put all the burden, the responsibility on the employee, on us,
this
on
guy.
you. Yeah, on you, on us,
you.
on every single worker, not your employer anymore. They're not going to give you that retirement income. It's not their responsibility. It's yours. And it's scary to me when I see people not taking advantage of the IRS limits where they allow you to put in a certain amount per year. And usually each year it goes up a little bit. And once you're over age 50, you can even put in more. So that's another thing I think, Tony, that's scary is when I see people over age 50 and they're still not maxing out the contribution level. They're still putting in what they could have before age 50. Well, maybe they weren't aware. Maybe they didn't know that they could contribute more over age 50 now, probably because most 401k plans don't have an advisor. And that's scary to me too, is people are putting literally thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars inside of these plans and they don't have an advisor. They have nobody there to advise them on the good funds within the plan, maybe the not so good funds. Should they be in fixed income or equities, international, based on what's happening right now in the market? And so if you don't have an advisor, you don't have somebody to help manage that plan with you on a monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, and annual basis. And that's scary to think about all the money that people are putting into these plans and they don't have a local advisor. So again, that's a service that myself and my team do help provide, is management of your current plans. We're more than happy to help you with that, just because it just scares us to know that you might not have that advice. And coming along with that advice, Tony, you're right, is, hey, you're leaving some free money on the table because you're only putting in X amount and the company will actually match X plus. So put in more. Find a way to sit down and work your budget, work your expenses to be able to afford to put away a few more dollars inside your plan to maximize the match from your employer, because that's free money. And it's scary when you leave free money on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to leave free money on the table. That's crazy. So you have to take advantage of that. That makes perfect sense. And, that's your 401k and your company sponsored plans. But you mentioned before we gave away a few more copies of the book that you also, there's IRAs and Roth IRAs. You want to take advantage of those too, right? And that's a mistake you see people make. Maybe they're in the wrong type of retirement vehicle or they're not taking advantage of them.
Yeah, both of those are also scary mistakes, Tony. You're absolutely right. When you have a 401k, a 403b, a 457, that's an employer sponsored plan.
Right.
Maximize those, take advantage of them, get the free money. If you're able to have another type of account through an IRA or a Roth, that's an individual account, not through an employer. If you're able to have those types of accounts, then you should have those open and you should be contributing to those every year up to the maximum. Again, there's a maximum level before age 50. And once you get past age 50, you can even contribute more to those accounts. And if you're not maximizing that out or contributing the higher level, again, that's scary because you're leaving an opportunity for your future on the table. It's an unfortunate, scary thing. But you have to also be aware of how do you qualify? What are the rules? What if I can put money in in an IRA, but it's not considered a taxable contribution? Or what if I make too much money and I can't contribute to a Roth IRA? So there's a lot of rules and laws out there, Tony, that it's scary, the investors that just aren't aware of these rules and laws. And some of them are actually bending or breaking the rules and laws and they don't even know it. And that's scary to me as well. And the reason that's happening is no fault really to the investors other than they don't have an advisor, a fiduciary advisor, to help them with a formal written plan. Goes right back to that plan again. If you have a formal written plan, you know what investments you should own, which ones you can own, what the contribution limits, income limits, all those rules and limitations are. It's scary, the investors we've met over the years that just aren't aware of these things, Tony. And a lot of it comes back to, unfortunately, they don't have a fiduciary advisor, or they just don't have one that's unfortunately proactively helping them build these plans and manage things. And so that's scary because you want to make sure if you are able to take advantage of any of these plans at all, you do that. You take advantage of them to your fullest ability, whether that be a 401k through an employer or an IRA or a Roth as an individual, or maybe a combination of both.
Yeah. Yeah, a combination of both is good. So we're talking about scary retirement mistakes and how to avoid them, and you've covered a lot so far. What's another one that we should talk about today?
So this kind of goes along with, I'll tie them all in again together, but it kind of goes along with having a plan, reviewing and monitoring your plan, and having an advisor that's able to give you the advice for that plan. And one is not rebalancing. If you're not reviewing that
Oh,
plan and updating how much are not only are you contributing per year, but what are you contributing to? For example, it might be a great time. Some people say, gee, interest rates are going to be coming down, fixed income or bonds are going to be going up, or the yield opportunity to make more money. Now might be a time to move some money into fixed income, depending on what position you are in your financial life and your plan. This is not an immediate advice I'm giving anybody here, Tony, but people thinking, gee, the market's a little volatile. It's been really on steroids for the last 2 years, pretty well going straight up. We have an election. We got a war going on. Now might be a time to rebalance and pull back some dollars out of the risky side of the market, if that's your concern, into more of the fixed income side. And with interest rates, which we think going to be going down more in the future here, hopefully bonds or fixed income investments will have an upside yield opportunity. But again, if you don't have a written plan and you don't have an advisor to help you with that plan to say, gee, when things get volatile here, maybe we should move over here. Or when opportunities dwindle or shrink or go away here, we should move and rebalance and go there. And that's scary, that if you're not doing that, how are you maximizing the opportunity, number one, for growth? But number two, what's really scary, Tony, is how do you know you're proactively insulating or protecting yourself from downside risk and losing too much money?
yeah, yeah. I mean, with market volatility, people are always concerned with that. So rebalance your portfolio and your overall asset allocation. I know that's something you look at,
Absolutely.
and it's
Mhm.
something you talk about in your book as well. And that book is Empower Your Retirement. We've got 10 more copies to give away. We've opened up 10 more slots. So I want our listeners out there to pick up the phone and call, mention you heard about it on the show, the weekly show. The number to call is 989-835-7203. And again, there's no cost, no obligation. All you have to do is call and say you want a copy of Empower Your Retirement. You heard about it on Jason's show. It's 989-835-7203. And if you want more information on Jason, what he does, making an appointment with the staff there, go to GreatLakesInvestmentAdvisors.com. All right. And we're talking today about really scary retirement mistakes and how to avoid them. You've covered a lot so far, Jason. What's next on that list?
So another scary one, and this is comes out of that article from Investopedia again, but we talk about it on the show quite often, and that's uh, the lack of tax planning. Now, when I say that, a lot of my listeners or viewers are probably thinking, "Well, I do my taxes. I do my taxes every year. I have a CPA. I have an accountant. I do my own. I get my 1099s, my W-2s in January and February, and by April 15th, I've already done my taxes." That's not what I'm talking about when we talk
Right.
about having a tax plan. When we talk about a tax plan, it's how can you not only make sure you're being most tax efficient each year, meaning how much are you contributing? Are you getting a maximum deduction for all your contributions into your plan? But really looking at the bigger picture and what tax bracket or rate are you at now? Where are taxes going in the future? And what tax bracket might you be in retirement? That type of proactive tax planning, when you have a plan and you have a fiduciary advisor like myself or another member of my team, when we do proactive tax planning, we're telling people how much they should be contributing to their IRAs or 401ks. And then maybe halfway through the year, towards the end of the year, we actually tell them, now we want you to stop contributing to your tax deferred plan because you've maxed out that opportunity this year. Now we want you to contribute to your tax-free plan, which might be a Roth IRA. It might be some form of municipal bond. It might be what we'll call a life insurance for retirement planning, or cash value structured life insurance. When we can contribute the dollars to those accounts, now we're truly going to have a tax plan that says not only do we reduce our taxes maybe this 1 year at a time, but now we know we're proactively having a powerful positive impact on the taxes we're going to pay not only this year, but on the income we're going to receive from these investments in retirement. Because taxes are probably only going up. There's just no way I can see it any other way, Tony, is with the state of our economy and our spending, tax rates have to go up. And when the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 passed by the Trump administration, when that expires in January of 2026, 5 of our 7 federal income tax brackets are going back up. So the laws are written right now today that within a matter of a couple of years, we are going to be in higher federal income tax brackets. If you don't have a fiduciary advisor working with you and for you right now that's already drafted you a plan that says for the next, it should have been already happening for the last 8 years, Tony, but for at least the next 2 years, here's a proactive plan of how you're going to invest your money to take advantage of these lower tax brackets. These, we call it taxes are on sale. To maximize your opportunity in a tax sale, you only have 2 years left. And so, it's scary. It's scary to me, the amount of people I've met that say, gee, my current advisor never told me that. I didn't know that taxes were on sale. I didn't know I could be maximizing this tax sale. I didn't know I could be putting money away tax-free for retirement. And so that's scary. Going back again to not having the right advisor, not having a plan, not continually monitor, review, and update that plan. All these combinations of things kind of snowball, and it can be very scary, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like no matter what topic we're tackling each week, what topic you bring up, Jason, and tackle, tax planning comes into it. And when people are planning for retirement, I think a lot of them look past taxes because they think that, well, my taxes are, I'm going to be in a much lower tax bracket when I'm retired because I'm no longer working. So I'm not worried about taxes in retirement. They don't realize that the majority of people have traditional 401ks and IRAs, and that's all taxable money, and even a portion of their Social Security can be taxed. And if they get any inheritance that they're dealing with, from their parents as they enter into retirement age, as I get older, I see these things happening. And I saw what happened to my dad when he inherited the property from his grandfather, and the taxes or from my grandfather, the taxes can just really come out of nowhere and surprise you. I mean,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
a big
And
deal.
again, it all goes back to not having a plan, and let's plan for the future. We have these plans. We can't just focus on 1 year at a time. It's scary to see how much time and effort people put on just 1 year, and they're not looking at the big picture, longer term vision of what's this going to be like for me in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. Yeah, when I'm in my 70s and 80s, having to take a required minimum distribution out of my 401k. And then I have to pay taxes on that, plus tax on my Social Security, plus taxes on my pension. And then I might inherit money from somebody else that's taxed. It is really scary. Again, let's go all the way back to just simply not having a plan and not being proactive to look at the long-term big picture and continually monitor, review, and update that plan.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's great. How about one more thing, one more mistake that you've seen people make that our listeners out there should avoid? What do you think?
A big one is, I'll call it lack of a plan, and it'd be a lack of a plan for healthcare costs. Healthcare costs is a biggie. It can eat retirees alive. First of all, a lot of people don't retire until they reach age 65 because when they retire, their employer will not provide them any healthcare retirement benefits. So at age 65, they can now qualify for Medicare. So that is a plan, I guess, that some people have is, well, my plan to retire is at 65. And the reason being, because my employer won't provide me with healthcare benefits. So I'll retire at 65 when I can get healthcare benefits. Well, again, have you sat down with a health insurance professional like we've had on the show multiple times, Tony? We've had Corinne Provost on the show multiple times. And when she sits down with a lot of my families and my clients that I work with that are in their 50s, she's able to have a very powerful impact on maybe allowing them to actually retire at 60 or 62 and not have to wait until 60. How can she do that? Did she qualify them for Medicare sooner? No, she was able to build them a proactive insurance plan to bridge the gap, maybe from 62 to 65, that they didn't know was possible or feasible.
Great.
And so again, having a plan that says,
Have
gee,
a
why don't you
plan.
review that plan and let's have a different plan than what your neighbor or someone else in your family had. Because
Right.
just because someone else had that as their doesn't mean it's in your best interest.
Yeah, personalize that plan. Well, I'll tell you what, this
That's
has
right.
been a great show, Jason, but we're almost out of time. Can you believe it? And I mean, you did
That's
bring up
scary
some,
too.
you brought up some really scary things on the show today, Jason. Had to do that one more time. And listeners, we're going to give away 10 more copies of Jason's book. It's called Empower Your Retirement. Plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. Jason, you wrote it with your dad, who just turned 80. Congratulations to him. That's fantastic.
Yep. Happy birthday, Dad, if you're
There you-
listening to the show.
There you go. And I think that's fantastic. Now, listeners, all you have to do to get a copy of the book is mention this show and call this number. The number you're calling Great Lakes Investment Advisors, that's Jason's firm, and let them know you heard about the book offer on the show, and we will send you out a book at no charge. That's 989-835-7203. I'll give that number again, 989-835-7203. And Jason, I want to tell you, great show today. Listeners, that does it for today's episode of your Financial Empower Hour with our host, Jason Cryderman.